Hey, welcome to another episode of the Get More Students podcast. Oh dear. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Get More Students podcast. I'm your host, Alex Asher, CEO of LearnCube.
And I'm Herbert Gozer, founder of herbertgozer.com.
Now, today we're being a lot more topical because it's getting warmer over here in Europe. I'm based here in London. And Herbert, you are?
In Austria. And 32 degrees here today. So
we got definitely gypped over here. Anyway, it's definitely not that here in London. We actually had rain this morning. And one of the reasons we bring that up is because we're going to talk about summer. And particularly, this topic is going to be on how to market your summer student program. So one of the reasons this came up, and this is not my specialty, so also a heads up that Herbert's going to lead this a little bit more, but really over here in Europe, at least, and I think it's very popular elsewhere as well, it's popular for students to travel to a destination location for some kind of course. Now, in our case, we're probably more familiar with language courses for summers, but I know in Germany, for example, summer courses for tutoring are also incredibly popular. Actually, you'd think they'd be even more popular this year with so much disruption happening with a lot of schools and a lot of parents feeling particularly, underwhelmed or actually incredibly frustrated with their own local schools' ability to either get through the curriculum or even help their kids sort of stay on track over this last year. So there's a lot of catch up going on, and it's really kind of hitting home. And what these courses would look like if you're unfamiliar is they might be 2 weeks or 5 weeks go and live in Oxford and learn English, or they might be spend 2 weeks in Barcelona to learn Spanish. Herbert, do you want to tell me a little bit more about the clientele here? What kind of ages we're talking about in particular?
Right. I mean, it's quite a broad group, but, just from, the clients that we work with, we're looking at anywhere between the main, target group are children between, say, 9 and 16, 17 years of age. So as you already mentioned, sending them for summer language camps in English, in Spanish, in German, whatever that might be. But there are also lots of other subjects that are being offered, such as programming, arts, whatever that is. Yeah,
totally true. And so these create real opportunities. And so that's one of the fundamental reasons we wanted to talk about it is this is an opportunity for now. And because it's summer, and also because Herbert, you're selling so many of these summer courses, and you have that exposure to it, that you know that this is a product that a lot of people want.
Absolutely. Demand is there for travel. People want to get out, and I'm sure parents also want their children to leave the house for a little bit. I mean, not only these in-person courses, but also online summer courses are seeing a bit of a boom.
I mean, we're seeing it as well on the LearnCube side. We're often getting approached by language schools or tutoring companies that are like, hey, we want to facilitate these online, courses. How do we go about it? So, this is something we're definitely exposed to as a mechanism for delivery. And so we thought it's going to be a fun conversation. But equally, as I say, I'm going to be the junior partner by far in this one. It's not something I have quite as much expertise because it's newer for me. Whereas Herbert, this is every summer you've been selling these summer courses.
Right, definitely. I mean, depending on the type of school, summer is either, peak season or it's a quiet, season. And so I think a lot of these, especially language travel schools, it's been difficult to plan, right? With all these travel restrictions and obviously planning ahead to book accommodation and activities and teachers, and of course marketing these courses in advance to get people to book. So a lot of logistical problems around that, especially in the first half of this year, of knowing whether or not these types of camps are going to take place in person.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about then. I mean, we kind of have an idea of what they. Actually, tell me what's the actual experience of an in-person summer camp? What does that look like?
Well, again, very, very different, but usually it's 1 or 2 weeks. Mainly, student goes to a school overseas, for example, to learn English in, I don't know, Edinburgh, and they have English classes in the morning, and then usually a variety of activities in the afternoon. And yeah, they're kept busy. They get to know the cultural side and historical sides of the places that they visit. They're usually with a host family, perhaps. Yeah, that's kind of usually how a summer language camp, I would say, for 9 to 17-year-olds looks like. But there are summer programs for, say, adults, and you just book also 1 or 2 weeks at a school, an intensive course. Also language classes in the morning, and then usually the school organizes activities in the afternoon and the weekends to get together and meet new people.
Yeah, so you've got these, and again, you're going to see a real split and diversity in this bunch. Why? Because each niche offers its new opportunities. That's really great. So then let's talk then about what are these students getting? Let's start with this 9 to sort of 17, 18-year-old sort of group. Why are they being sent, and who's this benefiting?
Right. I mean, it's the student is benefiting. It's the experience, right? It's that cultural experience of going to a different country, kind of immersing themselves in the language with the local people. Yeah, I mean that's why they have been, and I mean still are very, very popular. Just in the last year, or 2020 and this year, have been a bit hampered and limited by all the travel restrictions.
Yeah, and I imagine, and this is not too hard to imagine since it's been such a full-on year. I mean, what do parents get before COVID and even now during COVID is they get a bit of respite. I'm assuming, like they've got. I mean, particularly we're talking, let's start off with this bunch of kids between 9 and 18. They're getting them out of their hair. They're getting them out of home, and they're giving them something that they don't have to plan for. Like there's now, they've probably been absolutely bombarded with how do I come up with things for my child to do, keep them active, keep them progressing, keep up their development. I mean, personal development is very important for parents for their kids, right? So they're constantly worried that they're not giving their kid kind of opportunities. So there's this whole kind of psychology, I imagine, that's sort of been built up around that. But then also, because this has been such an, what do you call it, a very engaged period, like parents have previously been able to pass all of this activity generation to schools. And that hasn't happened this last year. They've had to be incredibly involved in every part, not just the academic side, but also the social side and providing opportunities and activities. So I imagine there's a real hot button right now, and the major demand factor is also parents getting a break and having a sense of my kid is looked after for this particular period of time, which must be hugely relieving, I think, if it can take place.
Exactly. That's why there's such huge demand at the moment, but obviously you need to package your programs correctly, just because there are so many things to think about now than pre-COVID.
And we can kind of talk about, because we're going to talk about in-person summer courses, and we're also going to talk about online summer courses, because there's opportunities in both. And we're going to talk, starting off though with, what are some of the, I think we hit on the major trend that's driving this demand in summer courses, which is parent fatigue probably, and also an inherent wish for them to offer new opportunities to their kids. What are some of the other trends that you think are coming into play with the summer courses for this year, 2021?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the camps are pretty much I'm just trying to think of some concrete examples. Pretty much as they were prior to COVID, with the structure of the camps, with the lessons, cultural activities, maybe workshops or things like that for the students. And so I guess in terms of the program of the summer camp, nothing's changed too much. They've just had to adapt with the current restrictions, which are changing all the time. And then of course these online summer camps, as what we like to call it, have popped up and are taking some market share away from those in-person camps for maybe parents or people who are not certain yet of traveling or aren't allowed to travel because of travel restrictions.
But surely it also offers a huge opportunity as well for all of that market, just like there is a market in language education, of people that the idea of travel is just hugely expensive anyway. Now you've got an online option that wasn't really there before because no one felt that there was any demand. Suddenly you've got a price point that people can actually afford for a much bigger part of the world. And if it's positioned right, it is lower cost. It is totally different to an in-person summer camp, but it can offer different advantages and maybe hit different pain points. So as an example, an in-person summer camp is, I don't see my kid for as long as the course exists. Whereas an online summer camp can be like for 3 to 4 hours a day. They're not going to do their normal sort of 6 to 8 hours. Like for even 2 to 3 hours, I just know that there's something that they're going to be doing that seems good for them, improves development, and I don't have to come up with an activity during that period. Like that seems like a win for a lot of parents, I would have thought.
School holidays are long,
and they've probably been made longer, right?
Yeah. So you need to fill it up as best as possible. Yeah, so definitely opening up new audiences, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting for that is you can treat them as two separate businesses anyway. Both offer great opportunities beyond, the current times. There will be an online summer camp for anyone that maybe price was an issue for beyond this. So assuming that people weren't worried about price, then I think people would choose an in-person summer camp compared to an online summer camp if they actually properly want their child to be out of their hair for a particular period of time. Because, they're staying in a safe environment, all of those things, right? But beyond this, you do have, as I say, this whole new audience that now could have, and something quite flexible, right? Like, even when you think about, I know a lot of people that are trying to plan their holidays and haven't booked anything because it's too hard to figure out whether they're going to go or not. If you've got an online course program that your child can be, they can still do that wherever you end up being able to get to from a holiday. If you stay at home, it's not fun, but at least I've got a program sorted. If I do go away, well, then they can still do it while we're in whatever that other location is. I've got 3 to 4 hours that I know that they're doing X. So that's, that predictability I think is incredibly attractive for a lot of people.
Definitely. I agree. Something else that we've been seeing is that if people are not planning ahead, it's difficult to plan ahead at the moment, especially if you're traveling. And so people are making last minute decisions, booking now for a week's time for their child to attend a summer camp. So it's not too late.
No, that's the amazing
thing. To start promoting a summer camp because everything is very last minute, this summer.
One of the other things, so all of these sorts of trends are really fascinating because you get these strange feedback loops. And one of those feedback loops, I imagine, and I'm very exposed to it with LearnCube and, a lot of physical language teachers have lost their employment. But they're looking for work and, even if the summer camp isn't sure, this is an in-person one, for example, even if it's not sure that it's going to go ahead, I think there would be a lot of teachers that would still put their hand up to be like, hey, if it does go ahead, I'm in. And if it doesn't go ahead, there's that possibility too. And I think that's up to the logistics of the school to kind of manage.
Yeah, definitely.
The point here is that there's a surplus of teachers that can be a lot more flexible. Like before, you would have had to have locked in all of your teachers months ago.
Definitely.
Whereas now you could, even if you wanted to create a summer course, you could do that with relatively short notice because a lot of the pieces are fluid and open to that flexibility. And online even more so.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. And again, it's not too late to start a summer program promotion.
Yeah. So let's then talk about how to succeed. And I think we should start with how to succeed before COVID. And I think we should look at what does COVID change, if anything, to succeed in today's current climate. So let's start with that, Herbert. How did summer schools work and win pre-COVID? Like, what were the messages that they needed to get across? What were the pain points and desires that they needed to unlock to be able to really succeed?
I think it was definitely kind of the overall experience. I mean, not just the academic experience, which of course needs to be top notch, but accommodation and the extracurricular activities and everything surrounding that. The things that weren't really that important were cancellation policies and how flexible things can be. That just really wasn't an issue back then, which it is now. And so you were really trying to promote this complete program that touches on kind of all of those points.
When I've looked at the websites that are currently selling summer schools, the first thing that they do is they have lots of great imagery that really expresses kind of the sensations and the feelings that the students will feel. Because my impression is this, Herbert, is that parents superimpose their faces on whatever those students, right? So happy student face is like happy parent face.
Exactly.
And when you sort of see people exploring, those are the kinds of images and feelings that students and parents want to get across. It's about discovery, self-development, confidence, social engagement. All of those are sort of like those are just the things I can kind of pick out. Is there anything else that sort of the feelings that you need to get across with your landing pages, your websites, your ads?
I mean, that was a given, that you need to have those amazing photos and videos. I mean, I always talk about it. So, I thought that was kind of like a prerequisite, to succeed is having those really kind of emotional, assets to really show the student experience. What is life like as a student at the summer camp? What are the feelings they go through, meeting new people from around the world, to building their speaking confidence, to really acing whatever their goals. That needs to come across. Happy, smiling faces outside, doing activities, having fun.
Yeah, and I think online as well. I think again similar kind of feelings, but probably a different kind of, slightly different sort of mechanism and way that you kind of transfer that. Like, I mean, actually, I'm open to it, Herbert. I mean, when you're trying to sell an online summer camp, do you still have? I mean, there's nothing wrong with still putting pictures of students outdoors because it's about their students. They're in summer. You're trying to get across that message that this is a summer camp. So. You probably could reuse some of those same assets, right?
You definitely can, but you obviously need to mix it up with, the assets that show students at their computers interacting, engaging with teachers and other students online.
Yeah.
And what else is there apart from the online classes? Like
Yeah.
if you are just selling online classes, like 2-3 hours of, I don't know, English learning, that's not enough. There needs to be more. There needs to be things like, I don't know, virtual activities, tours, meet and greets, games, challenges, maybe an extra one-on-one session or specific workshops. You need to be offering something more than just pure online classes.
Yeah, I think that's really important. One of the main reasons as well, when we associate with summer, it's relaxed, right? It's time off. So pushing too hard, like, hey, I know that you've had a hard year and you've been absolutely working super hard. Hey, work really hard again. Summer, it's a harder call. Like the idea is it's summer, it's feeling like more relaxed and it's more
kind of socializing and
part-time. And
it's fun as well.
Yeah. So probably, I mean, look, that's the whole challenge and the whole opportunity for online summer courses, which I think we've certainly felt when we've been sounding this out. There's a big opportunity, and it's up for the creativity of these organizations and the teachers to come up with some great visuals. I do think it's really important to get some good online fun visuals as well.
Absolutely.
And I think it's got to be just outside of the, like, either it's like, I mean, look, could be in LearnCube, you can make it really colorful and fun and active, but it can't just be, 9 pictures, all of students, waving at the camera.
Right. Yeah.
I think it really, with those images more than ever, you need to show a level of interaction and fun. That's much more important than, say, if you're just selling the generic course, which seems a bit more businessy. Do you agree with that? I mean,
I absolutely agree. Yeah. I mean, I think people have become numb to all those screenshots of Zoom calls with everyone smiling and waving into the screen. So it needs to be different. Maybe show a cooking class or something. So something completely different, that is not like a classroom setting as such, of the students doing something other than learning the language.
That's it. Like again, it's only because we have it here. But if you're using LearnCube's whiteboard, don't leave it blank. Whatever you do, fill it with color, and you could even have summary kind of images that are part of that. But and even if you're using another software, no problems. You could even be screen sharing something that is summary and fun and interesting. But either way, there has to be the big sort of part of that image has to be something sort of social and dynamic and colorful.
Definitely.
Cool. So one of the things that we talked a lot about before this, I find it really fascinating, is just also objection handling. Now, there's a whole bunch of normal objections that you're going to have to get across with a summer camp. There's usually, because it's a longer course and more intensive, there's sometimes a price kind of objection that you need to go. So let's just put that one side. Let's talk about what are the objections you need to handle now during COVID to be able to succeed with your summer camp.
Right. Obviously security, confidence in booking, safety, and also flexibility, right? So, that's super important for parents. They don't want any more stress or issues when they're booking this course. They want to know, okay, I book it and then I don't have any more headaches, right? That's the whole point of them booking it. And if something were to happen, maybe their country gets on the red list or, the student gets COVID or whatever that is, that, there are very clear policies and flexible policies in place to transfer to the next year or for a different course, maybe a different start date, whatever that is, and making that as painless as possible for the customer.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that's so important is being very proactive. This is not something.
Mm,
This is not something you keep in uh, like the small print. This is not something you put in the
no.
terms and conditions. This is something that's pretty much at the same, like just past all of the great positive images.
Mm,
It's like the section on, hey, I know that you've got all of these objections and you're fretting out and you're worried about all of these things. Don't worry, we've already thought about them and this is what
yeah.
happens. And
Hmm.
then I'm just like, as a parent, you want me like ticking those boxes off saying,
Exactly.
yeah, if this happens, I'm still okay. If this happens, it's not a headache. If this happens, they're really trained and like they're super onto it. They've got all these great processes. If my country changes, they've got these great policies that it means that it can still happen. It just, I might even, and you might even create guarantee policies or
Hmm.
we were actually talking about this, Herbert, and was like an upsell insurance policy.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. And insurance policy, or even uh, I know of a company selling quarantine packages. You can
Yeah.
upsell, and if you come from an app, like say a country where you need to go into quarantine, they have a homestay family ready for you, all within the guidelines and the safety guidelines, and they will pick you up, and it's basically a headache-free experience, even if you need to go into quarantine. So, some companies are being quite innovative with that.
Yeah. One of the things that we thought of as well was that parents are typically going to be a lot more conservative, right? They've got the most to
Mm,
lose. They've got a child that
sure.
they've invested that child's entire life in. So it's a pretty big responsibility to pass to another to look after, particularly depending on the age of the kid, the more sense of vulnerability there is in that child. So insurance, I think, is a really important. So it's either guarantee or insurance. But if you don't
Mm,
deal with that, I think it's a major problem because
yeah,
if the worst does happen, it creates a massive nightmare for everybody because then no one knows what's
mm,
happening and they don't know what's the recompense or what's the situation. If it doesn't happen, then it's fine. But people are going to want to know. They've already done the mental calculation. They're going to want to know those answers.
definitely.
So I think better to price it in and package it. So you could even, as I say, I think selling it as an upsell can help you alleviate that problem. And I think
Mm,
also businesses tend to have probably a bit of a better understanding of what the risk ratings are on, like, for example, a status change in a country. You probably know more or less whether that's likely or not. And even if you don't, if you've got enough students, you're able to kind of outweigh that, that
right.
risk
Mm,
over a number of students. And I think it is going to be up to the entrepreneurs that take some of those risks that really win. But on the online factor, you've just got different objections. So you're not going to have the same security or in terms of COVID, but you're going to need to deal with the other objections. It could be security in general, like, hey, is my child going to be safe online?
sure.
That's going to be a big one. So you're going to have your data policies like really,
Hmm.
really dialed and know exactly how you're going to protect students from, cyberbullying is just as big a problem in summer camps, I imagine, as it is anywhere.
Absolutely.
So you're going to
Mm,
need to have some policies and processes in place that make that feel like you've already thought about it. You've got these great kind of process to make sure that, don't worry, your kid's safe with us.
mhm.
So that's the main message that I think we're trying to get across. And it's up to the schools to kind of come up with those assets and
Yeah.
those that messaging to kind of get that across.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's a great opportunity for schools that perhaps previously haven't had a summer program.
Yeah,
Um, both
right up.
online, in person, demand is there. You just really need to package your offer, attractively, and also get those assets, as you said. Yeah, to build confidence with parents.
Brilliant. One of the other things that strikes me as a major win with this is the course, so LearnCube, we deal with a lot of online language education and tutoring, and a lot of that is sold, in terms of classes, and those classes are typically, they're not like 8 hours a day kind of sessions. But when you're selling a camp, you really are selling a big volume of education, which means that your price point is much higher, and you can do a lot of really interesting things with a much higher value product. So instead of worrying if you can sell your $100 to $200 value product, you're able to sell this $5,000 product. So you're going to have different processes as well to deal with that. So definitely, if you're dealing with a high value product, you're going to need to have some sales. I'm almost sure you're going to have some level of human interaction, unless you've got absolutely everything dialed on that website.
Yeah.
What's your experience with this, Herbert?
Definitely. I mean, if you're talking about thousands, then there has to be some level of human interaction, especially if it's an in-person course. I mean, online courses, you could probably get away with up to 1,000 without any human interaction, but everything needs to be like on point. From the website, your testimonials, your assets, the booking process, everything.
Yeah, probably if you're new to this, having human interaction would be, I think, quite important. So don't try and hide that, because if people can't get in touch with you, you probably haven't nailed all of your messaging because you haven't done it for multiple years.
Exactly.
You don't want to lose that connection with the parent because they've looked at it, they haven't found their answers, so they're off the website that can tell them. So I think probably the big call to action there is like, what would you call it? And what's the language that's used? Like consultation, or what do you?
Yeah, a free consultation, a free call, whatever that is. Just a contact us. You could even have it via some sort of messaging software or chatbot. It doesn't need to be by phone. A callback, and anything like that. You want to be able to speak to your potential customers to see what their concerns, what their objections are, so that you can make changes to your messaging, to your offer, to your website and landing pages. To minimize then contact in the future. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So that's what we've kind of gone through quite a lot today, and actually I found this a really energizing episode because again it's a bit newer for me, and I think, to be fair, online summer camps, maybe they started last year, but it's a newer phenomenon. Like it wasn't a mainstream product.
No, in 2019, nope, no way. People would send their kids to an online summer camp.
Yeah. So have some fun with it. We're really looking forward to hearing your creative ideas. The demand from what we're seeing is really there. The tools are there as well. So there's definitely the mechanism to do that online. And if you're doing it in person, brilliant as well. There's definitely an opportunity there. I think some people have all of the logistics really, really now. But remember, if you're doing in person, there's a huge amount of responsibility that goes with that. So I wouldn't underestimate that, but a great opportunity, and we're really looking forward to seeing how you all go. So thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get More Students podcast. Again, in this, we hope we've promised, what we promised is to give insights, inspiration, and motivation to those of you that are running or marketing online language schools or tutoring businesses. We release a new episode each week, and we would love if you can hit that subscribe button now to keep us going, and also so that you'll get a shiny new episode each week. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
See you in the next one.